Hello. You ever wake up one day and realize you were the joke in your own marriage? That while you were busy being the devoted husband, someone else was getting the best of your wife? Yeah, that was me. And it all started with a gym bag. For the past 3 years, I thought I had a normal, happy marriage. I worked a steady job. My wife, Jessica, ran her own business, and we had a life that looked good from the outside. Stable, secure, predictable. And that's exactly how I liked it. Jessica had always been into fitness, but lately, she had become obsessed. Early morning workouts, late-night cardio, protein shakes, new leggings arriving every week. I figured, hey, at least she's healthy. She always talked about how the gym made her feel empowered, how it was her escape from stress. I had no reason to doubt her. Until one night when I couldn't find my own gym bag. I had planned to hit the gym after work, but my bag was nowhere to be found. Jessica wasn't home yet, so I grabbed hers instead, figuring I'd just swap out whatever she had inside for my own stuff. That's when everything changed. Inside her bag, I found 3 things that had no business being there. A bottle of men's cologne, a second phone I had never seen before, and lingerie that definitely wasn't meant for working out. My stomach dropped. I pulled out the phone, turned it over in my hands. It was locked. No notifications, no messages popping up, but I already knew. I already knew that whatever was inside that phone, it wasn't meant for me. That was the moment I realized my wife wasn't just working out. She was training for something else. And just like that, my comfortable, predictable life shattered. I sat there, staring at the phone, my fingers tight around it like I was holding a live grenade. Because in a way, I was. That little black screen, silent and locked, was the key to everything Jessica didn't want me to know. The moment I turned it on, there would be no going back. But I had to know. I wasn't going to be that guy, the husband who ignores the signs, who convinces himself he's just imagining things, who tells himself there must be an explanation. I had the cologne. I had the lingerie. I had a second phone my wife had never mentioned. I wasn't imagining anything. I took a deep breath, flipped the phone over, and pressed the power button. The screen lit up with a passcode request. Locked. Of course it was. Jessica wasn't dumb. But here's the thing about people who keep secrets. They get comfortable. They get lazy. And when your whole life is built on deception, you make mistakes. So I tried her birthday. Nope. Our anniversary? Nope. Then I tried something else. Something simple. 0000. The screen unlocked. I felt my stomach flip. That was too easy. I tapped into the messages first, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. The conversation thread at the top had no name, just a heart emoji next to a single letter. J. I felt a wave of heat crawl up my neck as I opened the thread. And there it was. The truth. Jessica, thinking about last night. You're going to get me in trouble, winking face. J. You love it. Can't wait to see you again. Jessica. Same. Just tell me when. I'll make an excuse. J. Tomorrow. Same place. I'll bring the wine. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to keep scrolling. Months. Months of messages. Some flirty. Some explicit. Some detailing all the lies she had told me to sneak away and see him. And then? The pictures. Selfies of them together. Her in a bathrobe, smiling at the camera. Him, whoever the hell Jay was, standing shirtless behind her, his hands all over her. I locked the phone, my hands shaking. I had seen enough. More than enough. Jessica wasn't just cheating. She was comfortable with it. Like I was the side character in her story, the idiot husband sitting at home while she played out some passionate romance behind my back. I could have exploded, could have smashed the phone, called her right then, confronted her, screamed until my throat was raw. But I didn't, because I wasn't going to let her see this coming. No, I was going to let her think she was still in control. And when the time was right, I was going to rip her entire world apart. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Jessica curled up beside me, breathing peacefully, completely unaware that I had seen everything. Her affair, her lies, the way she so effortlessly deceived me. She thought she was untouchable, that I was too blind, too trusting, too stupid to ever catch her. But now I had proof, and I wasn't going to waste it. I spent hours running through every scenario. Confronting her immediately would be too easy. She'd cry, beg, spin her little excuses, claim it was a mistake, tell me she never meant to hurt me. No, she needed to feel it. She needed to understand exactly what it felt like to have your entire world ripped apart in a single moment. I wanted to watch the realization set in, watch her scramble, watch her try to fix something that was already burning to the ground. I needed a plan, something devastating, something she could never recover from. By morning, I had it. Jessica left for the gym at her usual time, dressed in one of those tight, form-fitting outfits I had always admired. Now, it just made my skin crawl. I kissed her on the forehead, like nothing had changed, and watched her walk out the door. The second she was gone, I grabbed her burner phone, took screenshots of every incriminating message, every suggestive picture, every hotel reservation. Then, I went to work. Step 1. Secure my assets. I called the bank and removed her from our joint account. Locked it down completely. Jessica had access to one credit card now, and I made sure she wouldn't be using it much longer. I checked the house deed, completely in my name. She had no legal claim to it. The car? Mine. Step 2. Make her affair public. Jessica cared about appearances. She lived for validation. The idea of being admired, envied, respected, it was her fuel. So I was going to take all of that away. I drafted an email, attached the screenshots, addressed it to her family, our friends, her co-workers, and most importantly, her gym buddies. She loved that gym, spent hours there, soaking in the attention. What would happen when they saw what she was really doing behind closed doors? Step 3. The grand finale. I wasn't just going to expose her. I wanted to destroy the affair itself. And that meant taking down Jay, her secret gym partner. I did some digging. Found his full name. Married. 2 kids. Oh, Jessica, you really picked the wrong guy. It took me 20 minutes to find his wife's Instagram. Another 5 to find her work email. I sent her everything. I didn't bother with an explanation. Just the truth. By the time Jessica got home, the trap was already set. She walked in, smiling, pretending to be the devoted wife, completely unaware that her entire world had already started crumbling. I played along. Let her kiss me. Let her ask about my day. Let her believe that she still had control. Then, right when she was comfortable, I reached for my phone, hit send, and watched as the bomb exploded. Within seconds, her phone started buzzing. Messages. Missed calls. Confusion flickered in her eyes. Then panic. I leaned back, arms crossed, watching as she scrolled through dozens of messages, her face draining of color with each one. Her friends? Horrified. Her family? Disgusted. Her gym buddies? Dragging her through the mud. And then, the call from Jay. I watched as she hesitated, her hand trembling as she picked up. Then I heard the shouting through the speaker. His wife had found out. She was leaving him, taking the kids, kicking him out. Jessica stammered, tried to calm him down, but it was too late. She looked up at me, eyes wide, realization dawning. You did this. I smiled. No, Jessica, you did this. And just like that, she lost everything. Jessica stared at me, phone still shaking in her hands, her world crumbling in real time. The betrayal she had so easily hidden for months, maybe even years, was now fully exposed to everyone she cared about. She opened her mouth to say something, maybe to beg, maybe to scream, but I wasn't interested in hearing it. She had built a life on lies, deception, and arrogance. She thought she was untouchable, that she could play both sides, enjoy the comfort of my loyalty while sneaking around with a married man behind my back. She thought there would never be consequences, that I would never be smart enough to see the cracks in her perfect little performance. But now, she was feeling every consequence, all at once. Her phone buzzed again and again, more messages pouring in, more people reacting to the bombshell I had just dropped. Her family? Shocked and disgusted. Her gym friends? Completely turning on her. The same people who used to hype her up, who called her an inspiration for her dedication, were now dragging her through the dirt, calling her a fraud, a homewrecker, a joke. And then came the worst call of them all. Her boss. Jessica worked in a boutique fitness company, the kind that prided itself on values and integrity. She had spent years climbing the ranks, building her reputation as a fitness coach, gaining sponsorships and partnerships. She was on track for a huge promotion. Not anymore. I could hear her boss's voice through the phone. Cold, professional, distant. They had seen the messages, the pictures, the backlash. They couldn't have someone like her representing their brand. Effective immediately, her contract was terminated. She collapsed into the couch, shaking, barely breathing. That's when it really hit her. She didn't just lose me. She lost everything. Her career, her reputation, her friendships, even her lover, who was now too busy fighting for his own life to care about hers. I watched her crumble, arms crossed, completely detached. There was a time when seeing her in pain would have broken me, when I would have done anything to fix it, to comfort her, to make sure she was okay. But that time had passed. Now, this was just karma doing its job. She finally looked up at me, eyes wild, desperate. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Don't do this." "Do this?" I laughed. A real, full-bodied laugh, because the sheer audacity of it was hilarious. "I didn't do anything, Jessica. You did." I stood up, grabbed my keys, and walked toward the door. She scrambled off the couch, reaching for me, but I moved faster. The second she realized she couldn't stop me, she went for the last weapon she had left, tears. "I made a mistake," she sobbed. "I didn't mean to." I cut her off with a simple, sharp shake of my head. "I wasn't playing this game. Not anymore. You meant every second of it." I opened the door, stepped outside, and shut it behind me. For the first time in years, I was free. And Jessica? She was trapped in the ruins of her own destruction. I had barely made it halfway down the driveway when I heard the door slam open behind me. Jessica's voice cut through the night like a siren. Raw, furious, desperate. She wasn't crying anymore. No more sobs, no more trembling hands, no more fragile apologies. This was pure, unfiltered rage. "You think you can just walk away from me?" she shrieked, her voice cracking under the weight of her own emotions. "You think you can ruin my life and then just leave?" I turned around slowly, just in time to see her charging toward me, barefoot, fists clenched, looking completely unhinged. For a split second, I wondered if she was actually going to hit me. She got up in my face, breathing hard, eyes wild, hair a mess. The perfect, polished, composed Jessica was gone. In her place stood someone who had lost control, and it was glorious. "You're pathetic," she spat. "You needed to take me down because you knew you'd never be good enough for me." I tilted my head, amused. That was her angle? She was the one caught cheating, and now she was trying to spin it like I was the problem? Classic. She shoved me, hard. Not enough to hurt, but enough to prove a point. "You ruined my life," she screamed. "You had no right to expose me like that. You had no right to send those messages." So that was it. It wasn't about me. It was about her. It wasn't about the affair, the lies, the betrayal. It was about the fact that she got caught, that I took away her perfect double life and left her with nothing but the consequences of her own actions. She shoved me again, harder this time. "Say something," she screamed. I just stared at her. That was the worst part for her. Not the exposure, not the ruined reputation, not the destroyed career, but the fact that I wasn't giving her the reaction she wanted. She wanted me to yell. She wanted me to lose control, to stoop to her level, to fight with her so she could somehow twist this into a battle where she wasn't the only villain. But I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. She let out a frustrated scream, whirling around and kicking the trash can next to the driveway, sending it flying. The lid popped off, garbage spilling everywhere, but she didn't care. She was unraveling right in front of me, and she knew it. "You think you won," she sneered, voice shaking. "You think this is over? I will ruin you. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of vindictive, bitter loser you are." I raised an eyebrow, kind of like how they all know what you are now. That set her off. She lunged at me again, hands raised, but I stepped back before she could touch me. "You want to hit me?" I asked, calm as ever. "Go ahead. Just remember, there are cameras everywhere." That stopped her. She blinked, chest heaving, her entire body radiating fury. I could see her brain short-circuiting. She wanted to destroy something. Me, preferably. But she was finally starting to realize that no matter how hard she tried, she had already lost. I took a slow step back toward my car. You should go inside, Jessica. You're embarrassing yourself. That was the final blow. Her face twisted in pure rage, and she let out another scream. An actual, full-on, frustrated, defeated scream. Then, without another word, she spun on her heel, stormed back into the house, and slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. That was her final act of defiance. Jessica had always thought she was untouchable, that she could do whatever she wanted and never face any real consequences, that I would always be too weak, too forgiving, too afraid to burn it all down. She was wrong. And now? She was completely alone. I sat in my car for a long time, watching the house, listening to the distant echoes of Jessica's meltdown still rattling through the walls. She wasn't done screaming. I could hear muffled yelling, objects being thrown, the sound of her rage spiraling into a full-blown explosion of fury and desperation. She had officially hit rock bottom. I knew that inside. She was probably tearing through the house, knocking things over, frantically texting the people who were now ghosting her. Her friends? Gone. Her family? Ashamed. Her career? Dead. And Jay? Her beloved gym lover? Too busy salvaging his own marriage to even answer her calls. Jessica had spent months, maybe years, living a double life. A life where she got to play the devoted wife at home, while sneaking off to be someone else behind my back. She thought she was smart enough, careful enough, manipulative enough to never get caught. And now? She had nothing left. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the aftermath. The texts, the missed calls, the voicemails piling up, each one more desperate than the last. Jessica had gone from furious to pathetic in record time. The messages started with rage. Jessica, you ruined my life. I hope you're happy. I hope you choke on your own bitterness. Then came denial. Jessica, we can fix this. Please, let's just talk. We can get past this. Then, the bargaining. Jessica, you don't have to do this. Just delete the emails. Don't go through with the divorce. I made a mistake, okay? But we can make this work. And finally, pure, raw regret. Jessica, please, just answer me. I don't know what to do. I don't have anywhere to go. Please, I need you. I read them all, one by one, letting each word soak in, letting the reality settle deep into my bones. This was it. This was her consequence. And the best part? It wasn't me doing it to her. She did this to herself. I took a deep breath and stepped out of the car, walking back toward the house. I wasn't here to argue. I wasn't here to yell. I was here for one thing, to end this. The second I opened the door, I was hit with the smell of something burning. Not fire, plastic. Jessica was in the kitchen, standing over the sink, a pile of shredded photos smoldering in the basin. Our wedding pictures, our anniversary photos, vacation memories, all of them reduced to blackened ashes. She turned when she heard me, her face streaked with mascara, her eyes swollen and wild. For a moment, she looked like she might lunge at me again. But instead, she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. Tell me what to do, she choked out. Tell me how to fix this. I stood there, watching her, feeling absolutely nothing. She wanted me to save her. She wanted me to tell her it would be okay, that she could make things right, that we could somehow rewind time and pretend none of this ever happened. But the past doesn't disappear just because you want it to. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the final nail in the coffin. An envelope. She took it with shaking hands, staring at it like she already knew what was inside. You're serious? She whispered. I nodded. It's over. She tore open the envelope, her breath hitching as she read the words. The legal documents, the court filings, the final proof that I was done. The divorce was official. Jessica was no longer my wife. Her hands dropped to her lap, the papers slipping from her fingers onto the floor. This isn't fair, she mumbled, shaking her head. This isn't how it was supposed to go. I let out a slow breath. You don't get to decide how this ends. You did that the moment you walked into that hotel. She looked up at me then, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw real fear. Not fear of losing me. Not fear of losing our marriage. Fear of being alone. Jessica had always had someone. Someone to fall back on, someone to lie to, someone to run to when things got messy. But now, there was no one left. I turned and walked out the door, closing it softly behind me. No more fights, no more screaming, no more second chances. Jessica had spent so much time playing with fire, thinking she was the one in control. Now, she was standing in the ashes of her own choices. And me? I was finally free. Bye-bye.